Okay, Facebookers, the moment you've all been waiting for. We've got Chris Hughes and we've got Sean Blackwood. I'm a sponsored athlete on the couch today, and we're going to be covering part 2 of the cutting while maintaining muscle mass videos. Okay, so in the first video that I had to do without Sean, we discussed the simple math of breaking down your macros so we can actually work out our diet plans. So now what we have to look at is where does that take us from there. Now we know how to work out what kind of foods make up the calorific intake, where do we go from there. Now I think the first thing to remember is on this topic, everybody's going to be different. There's lots of formulas out on the web, but unless you have access to specific BMI, body fat impedance equipment, you're not going to actually know what your body fat percentage and your actual lean mass percentage is, and therefore you're not going to be able to calculate your actual daily required intake. So to start with, it is going to be a little bit of guesswork. Now I'm presuming that a lot of people watching this video that want to get cut up have been in a bulking period beforehand. That makes sense, obviously. You know, you do not want to get cut up if you've got nothing to cut up. So if you're in a bulking state beforehand and you know you're actually putting mass on, how can we go about cutting up? Now, as Sean's going to say, probably the best way is going to be to cut up slowly, isn't it, Sean, to start with, okay? So we want to start reducing our calories. So my advice before we go any further and ask Sean's opinion would be to, A, start making a list of all the things you eat in a day while you're bulking, just so you can total up those things at the end of the day and get an idea of how many calories you're consuming a day. Now if you know you're consuming that many calories and you know that you're bulking and gaining weight, then obviously you've got a good starting figure that we can start reducing from. Okay. Now, unlike Sean, some people out there might be dieting down for different reasons. They might want to go on holiday, they might want a six-pack for the beach, you know, in Spain or something, or they might be competing, you know, both are good goals to obviously cut up from, but the level of how much you have to cut up to and how long for, that's obviously going to be dependent on the individual itself. So obviously give yourself time. Sean knows his body now very, very well, so he knows exactly how many weeks he needs to get in shape ready for competitions. I would say personally, give yourself more time than what Sean gives for competition, which is about 16 weeks, isn't it, Sean? Give yourself more leeway in that, because the first time you do this, it is going to be a bit more experimental. I would say as well, with the calories, once you find out how many calories you're eating on a daily basis to do your bulk, I would start reducing your calories by 250 calories a day, but over the week period. So do that for a week, and then next week after that, then reduce 250 again. And keep monitoring. Monitoring is key. People that diet down too fast are going to lose a lot of muscle. Is that right, Sean?
Yeah. I mean, like people say, when you burn into your muscle, you mean when you're losing weight too fast. I mean, like you get lots of people talk about Weight Watchers and they're sort of reducing calories in liquid forms and stuff, as we keep talking about, and they lose weight quite quick. But then as soon as they stop and start eating solids and stuff like that again, they put body fat and weight on again. So the main thing is do it slowly, and it's like we keep talking about training. It's adapting everything to life, as we talked about the 6 Ps. It's just being really slow and effective, and just doing it. If you make gradual changes, your body doesn't sort of register it as fast as it would just going as a drop, and then the body does sort of other things in between.
It's like a sudden shock to your body, isn't it, really, Sean? And your body's like, oh.
It's like paying a big bill, really. If I had a £500 bill, that's it. But if I pay £10 a week or £2 a week, I'm slowly going to get there.
Exactly. And I think that's the key element to it, is the amount of time you do it over, make small changes. Now, in terms of the actual nutrition side of things, Sean, do you increase your protein intake as you diet down to preserve more muscle mass, or do you keep your protein roughly the same?
Yeah, the protein will slightly increase, just a little bit. Again, the first sort of couple of weeks is sort of trial and error, even for me, as much time as I've been doing it. Each time I sort of do my diet, again, advanced bodybuilding we're talking about, it's just gauging how much I'm going to lose, because initially, just by cutting out all the crap, and when I say crap, I mean, like anybody, I like, you know, chocolate and biscuits and all the rest of it, stuff like that. For the first couple of weeks, I just want to see what my body's doing before it sort of goes through a gradual stage. So don't think you start a diet on Monday and then by the week you're like, oh my God, I've lost 7 pounds or something like that. It will come off very quickly. and then you get to a point where it just sort of plateaus. But again, using the formula as Chris talks about, is your protein, my fats actually increase. One of the things that important that my fats actually increase as well.
There's a reason why that we'll discuss in a minute as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then sort of the proteins, and again, I sort of said, we might reduce my meals but still getting the same amount of calories, as Chris already said, whether it's 6 or 7 meals, again depending on the person, lifestyle commitments and stuff like that. I do longer days, and all I do is just spread out the same amount of calories I would have just over longer periods of time.
And the point there as well about the fats increase, the reason Sean's protein increases is obviously straightforward. Protein is the building block of muscle, and obviously the more amino acids you have available to build muscle, the less likely your body is to catabolize muscle tissue while on a low calorie diet. Now what you've got to remember is as you diet down, you have to be in a calorie deficit. So for people that say that you can gain muscle while losing fat, it's impossible. You have to be eating less calories per day than what your body requires in order to burn any tissue, be it muscle or fat. What we're trying to achieve here is we're trying to give the body more protein so that it has less need to use muscle catabolically and break it down for amino acids, okay? Now the reason Sean increases fat and gets more energy from his fats is carbohydrates as a whole, they raise insulin. Now anything that raises insulin, and people that have read about insulin know, insulin is a fat storage hormone. So we actually want our insulin to be as low as possible throughout the day, every single day. So it's actually better to get your foods from fats, which is why sort of diets like the Atkins diet works. You know, you're using fats and proteins pretty much, and very little carbs. You're getting very little insulin spike, and you're actually going through ketogenesis. Now, ketogenesis is not going to be related to what we're going to talk about now, but we will go about that into another post when we review some diets, okay? But the main point is, Sean will try and get his food some healthy fats if possible, and the carbohydrate sources that he does pick are going to be a little bit different to when he's actually bulking up. Obviously, we're going for stuff that's going to be slower digesting, aren't we, Sean? Sugars, obviously, like things like chocolate and crisps and all the junk food that Sean was on about before, they can be laden with sugar. So they're going to spike your insulin very, very quickly, and they're going to cause your body to have a raised insulin in your blood. Now, why insulin's raised in your blood, you cannot be burning fat off. You know, insulin's a storage hormone, so we want to minimise insulin in the blood. Another little trick that some people go into is use glucose dispersal agents. I'll go about that in another post. There's a few supplements you can take, things like acetyl-L-carnitine, that actually keep the blood sugar levels low, especially after meals. And the lower your blood sugar level and the quicker it returns to normal, the quicker you can get back into a fat burning mode. But before I lose topic, what kind of foods do you eat when you're actually burning your body fats off for competition, Sean? What kind of carbohydrate sources and fats do you pick?
Well, it tends to be what we say is low glycemic, and obviously low glycemic means it's going to be slowly distributed to the body. And just to really keep it simple, again, it does get repetitive, but I'll try and stick with the same basic three. Other people have different, again, it's tailored to the person's needs or wants. Now, I tend to stick with oats, sort of early time in the morning, sort of dry oats. Then I sort of will go in between sort of your basmati rice, but white rice. Basmati white rice again, and I'll keep it in sweet potato.
Yeah.
Again, depending on how far I am from competition, again things like sweet potato, most of the benefits are sort of in the skin of sweet potato, so I tend to, you know, take the skin out.
Yeah.
During sort of that competition time. I mean, early stages fine, but towards nitty gritty times it's going to sort of be taken out. And even then, if I do have sort of a 6-meal system, I might even cut out the carbs at the last meal, and it tends to be sort of what your less sort of non-calorie type of things like your broccoli, your cauliflowers and stuff like that. I mean, green beans or green leafy stuff. Yeah. Rather than having, you know, sweet corn.
Coniferous vegetable, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. I see people having tins of sweet corn. I'm like, you died for a competition, have tins of sweet corn and a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Again, good healthy fats, as we're going to go into, I think we're about the Udas oil, again, which is something I will put on sort of 3 to 4 of my meals at least, because I think 1 tablespoon will have about
I think it's 90 calories.
90 calories.
Yeah.
So again, these are calories are coming in, so they've got to be accounted for as well into the plan. Me on a personal note as well, for getting me into shape, as much knowledge as I do, doing this is still very difficult. So I tend to have somebody help me out. So I've, as again, just to mention, Lee Harding and Terry Fisher, who actually helped me regards to sort of dieting down, training and everything else and stuff like that. So I have a prepped plan for me, sort of the 16-week mark, which sort of Lee Harding has a lot to do with bringing me down and sort of monitoring me. Again, things are how I feel, long days, sort of a leg day might consume a little bit more carbs. We might try different things. A carb increase on one day, a decrease in carbs another day. It's playing around. Obviously, towards the end, it's going to be very fine tuning, depending on how fast I'm coming or not coming in. So again, we're just going out how I feel and how I look together. Not necessarily by the weight. As long as the weight is coming down steady, then we're sort of happy that we're monitoring. But again, if we're coming too fast, we might need to add in more calories, whether it's the carb or the protein. So there's still learning curves with even 10 years of experience, and that's really good focus for me, that I can have somebody sort of guiding me and watching me, and that's another good thing that Lee Harding does for me.
It's like you said really in some of the other videos, Sean, when we're talking about weightlifting technique. Again, the whole of this sport bodybuilding is about listening to your body, isn't it? So monitoring and watching your body. I think obviously Sean's hit the nail on the head there, but a few points I suppose that we could clear up obviously is the carbohydrate days that you were saying before. Obviously when you're doing a strenuous back deadlift day or a strenuous back day in general I suppose, or a squat day, you might want more carbohydrates than say if you're doing a shoulder day. Now if you have your carbohydrates low all week round, your body is going to start to fight back. So what Sean's actually on about there is cycling your carbohydrates a little bit, isn't it? So you have one high day and then a few moderate days, or maybe a low day. Different people respond different to carbohydrates, okay? Now obviously Sean's going for competition, and some of these people out there cutting are going to be cutting for other reasons. But one thing I will mention about carbohydrates is as you reduce them, you also start to dry out, don't you, Sean?
Exactly.
And for the stage, that's important. For the average person that wants six-pack abs, you're only looking to get down to around about 10 to 12% body fat. What Sean's talking about is getting down to like the 6s, 7s and the 8s. So there's a big difference there, and the last few weeks of Sean's contest prep, you will probably never ever get to. But if you're a competition bodybuilder, those last 2 weeks are going to be standard for you guys. All the guys who watch Beachbody Abs, I think the advice would be to start, you know, watching your carbs, reduce your calories by 250 each week until you get to a point where you can start seeing the weight drift off nice and slowly. Keep to stuff that goes and burns slow, so sweet potatoes, yams, you know, Sean likes his oats. You can have white basmati rice, a few other things I suppose Sean like can have. I'm just trying to think now, well, like you said, coniferous vegetables, things like broccoli, asparagus is another good one, you know, things like that. If you keep your nutrition simple and you keep a food diary, I do recommend, if you're the kind of person that can't keep a food diary, to look at an online version of MyFitnessPal or one of those other similar sites where you can record your food on your iPhone, or you can just log on at the end of the night and work out your calories. And I do recommend you keep track of your calories, because I've had a few people contact me saying I eat loads of food but I can't put any weight on, or I'm not eating much food at all but I can't lose weight. And when we actually message them back and forth and we get down to the nitty gritty, they're either eating biscuits full of sugars and they don't realise how many calories they've got in them, or they think they're eating a lot of food, but on the grand scheme of things, just because they're full 3 or 4 meals a day doesn't mean they're eating a lot of food. Sean will tell you now, you have to build up, don't you, Sean, to eat the amount of food that Sean eats. And the amount of food that I eat, I mean, when you're eating 5,000, 6,000 calories a day sometimes, it's a lot of food to cover, you know, that's like 1,000 calories per meal. And to get that kind of calories from healthy foods, not junk food now, healthy foods, it takes a lot of meals. And that is why Sean breaks it down into 8 meals. I had a guy ask me, why can't I just eat a tub of ice cream a day, Sean? Now, a tub of ice cream, yeah, okay, you look at the side of it, it's got 2,500 calories, but if you eat 2,500 calories of sugar and fat, what are you going to get, Sean?
Exactly, but when you have, you know, sugar, again, insulin spike is raised, and you're not getting the good calories that's just going to go through your system. Obviously, in solid food and good solid food, your body has to absorb it, break it down. But what we're going for as well is we're going for the fat burning and the metabolism raising by eating small meals consistently for a period of time. Now, someone like myself eating 6 to 8 meals, probably a good 3 or 4 of the meals, I'm not actually quite hungry, but they say you're not to eat too much so you're not full. So obviously anything of too much of one thing is going to store as fat anyway. So it's just keeping that consistency, and people don't actually realise to actually lose you need to eat more or keep the consistency of the metabolism going. So I get a lot of people, especially females, and when as soon as you start telling them to eat 3 or 4 times a day, you know, the average person you say breakfast, lunch, dinner. But if you're training, again, you need that little bit more,
yeah.
And just spreading it out. So, you know, if we work out what the calories are, as we told you, again, it's just spreading them out throughout the day. I don't mean to say, oh, I'm going to do it in 2 meals. It is better to keep the metabolism regulated and going by spreading these meals out pretty much as possible. But again, tailored it to your work lifestyle. If you're sitting behind a desk, you might have the opportunity to do it. If you're a builder, someone like me who works sort of continuous jobs, I have to sort of try and find the time where I can sometimes substitute a food meal for a liquid meal.
Yeah.
Well, I prefer to keep the solid food coming as much as possible. But again, around competition time, this is where you have to sort of calorie count, calorie control, and it's best to keep a blueprint so you actually can look in later on, and anything that helps you, i.e. the thing on the app on the phones that can help.
Yeah, Fitness Pal app.
Fitness Pal, writing it down if you've got the time to write it down, or just put it in your notes or somewhere where you can sort of easily look at it, where you've got time to write it up on the computer. You just build a blueprint so you can see what you're doing, and then you can build a basis of it. And like I said, maybe if you put a 4-week progression for yourself with a picture and your diet, and you can sort of see what's working and what's not. Some bits come faster than others, and it's just a case of taking your time and then seeing where you need to sort of work out. And again, there's always people to ask around, and people like me and Chris will always here to sort of answer your questions and try and help you if we can help you anymore. No problem.
That is a good idea, actually, Sean. I second that. Keeping yourself some profile pics of every single week, or maybe every 2 weeks, or
yeah.
even 3 weeks. You know, it's very, very hard to see the changes in somebody. They say, you know, if you're around them all the time, especially yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror every day, and you probably don't notice the changes that are actually happening to your physique. So by taking pictures and then looking back at those pictures 3 weeks later and 4 weeks later, you'll see more changes. But the worst thing you can do is look in the mirror and say, this isn't working, this isn't happening, get impatient, and then start rushing things. So leave yourself enough time on the diet, especially if it's your first one. Don't go too mad. Start where you are now if you're gaining mass. If you're not gaining mass and you're actually losing weight already, you know, start tracking things, like Sean said, and it might even be that you need to adjust things up a little bit. You know, you might already be losing weight. So obviously, you know, you have to suit this to whatever you know is your current diet and your current plan. Okay. Now, I think in part 3 we're going to go more, Sean, into some of the exercise, and I think we're going to film that one down the gym. But for now, I think we've given you enough information for now. We'll leave this.
Sorry to jump in. Yeah,
no, that's fine.
Again, misconception of bodybuilders or anybody who's looking to sort of bulk up or diet down is they keep looking at the scales every day. Some people do. You get a lot of people who just keep checking every day. Now, Chris will probably tell you the same. It's always better to weigh yourself when you wake up in the morning on an empty stomach. If you've got scales, you're going to have more of an accurate reading than having meals and fluids, whether it's water, sugary drinks, everything else. And later on in the day, you actually will be heavier, and that could be the space of 2, 4, 6 pounds or something silly like that. So if you want an accurate reading, which I don't think you should do every day, you know, maybe once a week, so sort of get a rough, sort of an estimate of what you're trying to tell you, but it'll be more accurate if you do it in the morning, empty stomach, so as when you wake up, you're going to have a correct reading.
That's actually reminded me of 2 things as well now, Sean, just I'm feeding back off you. Now, when Sean said in the first couple of weeks he cleans his diet up, i.e. remove the junk food, now that would be expected of you, obviously, So when you actually work out your daily calories, I'm expecting to work out your daily calories after you've removed the junk food. And the second thing I want you to remind you of is, once you start removing the junk food, you need to increase your water intake as well. Okay, water is very essential to nutrient transport. Sean drinks a lot of water a day. As you know, in all my posts, I'm always drinking water. Water is essential for nutrient transport, so try and get at least 4 litres a day. At least 4 litres a day. It'll help you shed the excess water weight. And to be honest with you, I think the first 2 weeks when you actually start dieting down, you are going to lose a quick £10.
Easy.
And that £10 is not fat. Don't get excited too much. That £10, about £8 of that will probably be water weight, won't it, Sean?
Exactly.
So, you know, what we're talking about here is, don't look at the scales and go, wow, I've lost £10 on this diet in the first 2 weeks and expect that to carry on. It's not, that's just water weight, okay? But at the same time, keep drinking water. The more water you drink, the less water your body's going to store, okay? And I think that's really it. Sean, unless you can think of any more tips to give these guys on terms of diet or nutrition.
No, and just to carry on exactly what you said, and that's just brought back to what you said. So bringing the water in again, again that's another essential thing when I'm dieting as well. That when I do get cravings or do feel hungry, I actually drink a lot more water and actually bloats me up, and I almost feel like I've had something because I've got a bit of a stomach. But remember, with water and bloatedness, it's always going to go down. It's only water.
Yeah. I think water also washes away some of the stomach acid.
Yeah.
And sometimes people that feel on a diet meal, they don't feel satisfied. That's why they pig out later on. And one tip that was given to me is try and drink half a litre of water about half hour before a meal, and then have your meal, and you'll feel less hungry later on. Literally because you're more bloated and you're more satisfied really. And I think that's the end of the name of the game. People break after diets after 3, 4, 5 weeks and stuff, and they end up on little binges, and it's all about control. I mean, do you still have cheat days in your diet at all, or?
Yeah, again, straight into the sort of competition prep that's sort of planned out for me. It sort of will go into a cheat meal as opposed to having a day. Yeah. You can imagine once you are reducing your sort of calories and you're having a calorie deficit, and whatever the calories might be, and then you come to having a cheat day, and then you have a fry up, and then you have chocolates, which is saturated fat, that's going to stick on you anymore. You might be again going to do some cardio in the morning. So again, when you're doing all these calorie reductions, things I will be doing is I might be doing some cardio in the mornings. It will be at first, but as I get into the diet prep, I'll probably do some cardio, maybe even twice a day. Sometimes depends how my body's looking, how my body's responding, just to keep in that sort of metabolism, fat burner sort of thing going. That's pretty much it.
I think we'll talk about this in the third part, but obviously the cardio that you'll be doing will also aid to the calorie deficit that we just talked about. So when I said to you, reduce your calories by 250 a week, I didn't necessarily mean by food. It can be a mixture of food and a mixture of cardio. But we'll talk more about cardio when we get the film on the third part, I think.
Yeah, and I just forgot, because as I was talking about the cheat meal, I've just gone on to something else. So just remember, the cheat meal is still very important because it will offset your calories for while you're dieting or whatever it is that you're looking to do. But some people will go too much to OTT by having the cheat day and having too much. It's always probably better to have it earlier in the day.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed to having a long, sort of late in the evening, or having a whole day, because you probably find that you're having your whole week's calories in a day.
Yeah,
and that's too much of a shock.
The other thing I suppose you're also talking about as well is some of these foods that we're eating now take a while to digest. So if you can have them early on the day, your cheat meal, rather than late at night, when you're sleeping, you don't want high calories digesting while you're sleeping, because obviously you're not actually burning them off, you're not moving. You're in a very sort of low calorie requirement state. So try and have your high calorie meal in the morning, as opposed to night. But obviously you've got to see what works for you and what works for your shift pattern at work, or have your calorie day, I suppose, on a Sunday, I suppose. When I say calorie day, sorry, I mean calorie meal. Okay, it's a calorie meal, and it literally is one meal, isn't it, Sean? It's not literally. I've heard some on the muscle building forums. I've got an hour window to get as many calories as I can, and it doesn't count. And then you see guys eating like 10,000 calories in that 1 hour because it's their cheat hour. Okay, it doesn't work like that, does it, Sean? It literally is just one meal. It's a nice taster, a few higher calories than normal, just to sort of speed your metabolism back up, and then it's back onto normal.
Exactly, and if you can keep that up for sort of 7 days, you know, when I do have a cheat meal, I really eat it slow. I try and enjoy it and really just eat it so I can really enjoy it. And then I think about it again, you know, when I come to the next 7 days, about having something else. So one week I have one thing, whether it's pizza. The next thing it might be a KFC or a Bargain Bucket or a McDonald's, depending on what it is, or Chinese. I kind of choose one thing. That I go to the next thing. Again, going back to the water very quickly, I know we've done it about 3 times now, is be prepared to wake up a lot of times when you have a lot of water. A lot of people might ask questions now, so we might as well get it out of the way. That as you do sort of diet down an influx of upping your water, you will be going a bit more often, even through your sleep.
Yeah. So expect to wake up 2 or 3 times a night, okay, basically, and don't blame us, okay? But one thing I will say is if you wake up at night because you drank water, as opposed to being woken up by a loud sound, your body has woke you up, and because your body has woke you up, you will find it easier to get back to sleep than if it was the kids crying or a fire truck going by or an alarm, etc. But yeah, you know, as much as a pain, definitely keep drinking the water because it's an essential nutrient to transport, well, all nutrients I suppose, and muscle at the end of the day is made up of 70% water, as is most of the body, so it is very important. Now, unless you can think of anything to add, Sean, I think we'll save all the other questions for the part 3 for the cardio and the exercise.
Well, there's actually one more thing that you might be able to sort of enlighten about, and as you're going through this process, it's quite hard, and I think that recovery is very important. And I think certain products, like your L-glutamine and your branched chain amino acids and stuff like that. I even have a creatine to start with, still early on in the diet prep. Again, that can hold water, so again, it will cut out. Again, depending on how I'm looking, but I still think it's very important to, as upping your fats, you know, you're upping your aminos and L-glutamine and everything else like that, and having it before, in the morning and before bed. Yeah,
definitely. I suppose as you're losing calories as well, it's more important to get the L-glutamine, the branched chain acids before bed, because we want to stay anti-catabolic. Catabolic hormones are our enemy while cutting. We want to preserve the muscle. Catabolism is obviously muscle breakdown, so we want to avoid that. So I don't know how much you have, but normally about 10 grams of glutamine is recommended before bed. Try and get your branched chain amino acids. We'll go more into branched chain amino acids in another episode, because I don't really want to go and you know, go into an off rant on branched chain acids, but try and get them in a good ratio, a high amount of lutein in there. Okay, so. Maybe I'll put that in the actual description for the video actually on that topic, sure. But definitely get some branched chain amino acids and some L-glutamine, and maybe end the day off with a protein shake or something just before you go to bed, with water obviously. Again, if it fits your macros and you've got a few macros left, maybe have with some milk. Milk's a good slow digestible protein. But definitely have some branched chain amino acids and some glutamine before bed, because that'll keep you anti-catabolic for the night, won't it, Sean? Yeah, I think that's it for now, guys, and in part 3 we'll be looking at some exercises, both the actual cardio machines themselves and also from the workout perspective of the actual dieting while maintaining mass. But thanks for listening.